Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Welcome to another episode of Post-Conference Presser for Anfield Index. You haven't got the day wrong. It is indeed Thursday, the 21st of August. Now, Arne Slot normally does these on a Friday, doesn't he? 9 a.m. Seems to be a man of routine for that. But it is, or it was, should say, Thursday, 2:30 up at the AXA. Various speculation into that. People will be saying, it's because of transfer and big deals come in or something else. I've even heard a suggestion it's the third kit being launched at the same time. You know, that green one? Who knows, realistically? In all honesty, it doesn't matter too much because there was the normal things that Arne Slot went through, and that's what we'll talk about. The questions and answers he gave. We'll look back to the Bournemouth game, the lessons from that, Newcastle's threats, and I don't just mean Joelinton kicking that out of everyone, and lineup, score, and scorers. So we will go through it all as normal, ladies and gents. I'm your host, Dave Davis, coming to you from pretty sunny, actually, still for 5 o'clock in Edinburgh, although it's starting to go overcast, so it may change. Fingers crossed, it's nice in the world wherever you are. So let's get into it, first of all. And I mean, as I'm bringing up certain bits, of course, the first question was about, you had no doubt, Vinny O'Connor, Isak Gay, which of course he had to do. And he was quite, laughing and joking, comical about it on a slot, wasn't he? To say, you know what the answer is going to be. You know what you can tell your superiors. People will naturally be chatting in the chat panel around transfers. So almost to round it up a little bit from where we are in the day. Everyone knows where we are for the Isak statement. We're just waiting for Newcastle to try and get some strikers in. And probably the reason I slipped into Wolves there are suggestions. They're in talks now. They're only 5 million apart for Wolves forward Jakob Strand-Larsen. It's a bit quiet on Visser, so we'll see if that develops. But could Newcastle finally get the forwards in? We'll see. Mark Gay is set to play unless anything's different at 8 p.m. tonight for Crystal Palace in their Conference League qualifier. We'll obviously see if anything develops from that. And it's important to mention that just recently, Mark McAdam on Sky did actually say that Liverpool are in the market for an attacker. He was very clear on that. Didn't say just Isak, an attacker that could play 9, 10, wide in either position, a versatile attacker. Now, who knows what's going to happen, of course, but people are starting to make links, aren't they? Morgan Rogers is now Spurs' top target after they miss out on Eze, so people will go, let's move for that one. We'll have to see. But I know someone's going to ask about transfers, so let's round that up quickly. But out of everything that was discussed, on the pitch is always the most important place. So he was asked about the right-back situation in two parts because fitness was asked about. And he did say Jeremy Frimpong is out until the international break with the hamstring. Had a little jibe as well with it about, we were right to take him off. I got a bit of criticism for that. So that was in the mix. Connor Bradley is back in training, but he gave a little bit more about the right-back situation. So this is the first clip I wanted you to play or listen to from what Arne Slot said.
How big a concern is that right-back area for you now? Because you mentioned Connor Bradley doing some training. Joe Gomez has had his injury problems as well. Now Jeremy Frimpong. All of a sudden it looks like you were well stocked in that area, but are you concerned about the fitness and how sort of the records have been with the others that might be fit?
No, Jeremy has a very positive injury record. Connor has been out once or twice last season. Yeah, these things happen in a season. We only have at the moment 2 injuries. Unfortunately, it's 2 for the same position. But the good thing is that some other player can play in that position as well. Wata played in that position for a few minutes. Dominic Szoboszlai already played in that position. So there are other options we can explore. Joe Gomez is definitely one of them, but for him to already play 20 minutes, that was already quite a lot. I wouldn't say he had a setback, but he wasn't able to train 3 days in a row completely with the team, which is completely normal if you're out for so long and all of a sudden the manager needs you for 20 minutes. But he's training with the team, so let's see where he is on Monday, if he can be involved in the team or if he can even start. But there are other options we have as well in this position. It's just, you cannot prepare for 2 injuries in one position would be stupid for us to have 3 fullbacks or.
And he does go on at this to say, we do actually, funnily enough, have 3 left backs at the same time, jokingly. But bit of an update there. Obviously, there is no Frimpong. He will not be available until after the international break. Conor Bradley, as you said, is back training with the team. Now, I've seen quite a few say a few things about Joe Gomez. We need to be clear on what Arne Slot said specifically. He did say that for 20 minutes, it was normal, that he wouldn't be able to train fully. But the words he used, he wasn't able to train completely with the team for 3 days. And it's not to be rude. You never know quite how he's describing it or putting it, because obviously he sometimes clarifies parts in English. But if you take those words literally, is it that Joe Gomez has been able to train partially, maybe not do all the sessions on, there's a little bit of a gap or uncertainty there. But he did end it with, he is back in training with us now. So we have to see if he is available for this one. And it's the 3 days where it wasn't completely, because the game was Friday. So if it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 3 days there where he couldn't train, he was back in Tuesday, you'd think, okay, he's got a real chance of minutes for Newcastle that way. But there is a little bit of uncertainty on that, isn't there? Maybe, just maybe, we'll get more clarification in the embargo section that there will be. Don't know if it's going to be tonight or Friday, but had it clarified, there will be an embargo from this one. Yeah, I'll come into a bit more into line up and that part later on, but just really important to clarify that, because I saw people saying, oh, he's just not trained for three days. That almost might be true, but that's not the words Arne Slot used. It's important, that distinction. Other things Arne Slot talked about, he talked about defending counter-attacks. As it says there on the screen, we were at moments too open. We need to find the right balance. That balance will be better with Ryan. We now have to play Newcastle and Arsenal, who will normally be above Bournemouth in the league. With Maka and with Ryan in his natural position, I expect us to be better in these situations. If it leads to a goal, it's a big story. For us, conceding 2 in a home game is too much. Now, it is one press conference. It's only a couple of lines, so you could be reading too much into this. But I think the thing's certain, Ryan Gravenberch is, of course, coming back into the team for Newcastle away on Monday night. However, it's the fact he talks about it, because people have got the ideas of who will be the first choice in the double pivot, well, haven't they? With Florian Wirtz being the 10, who's going to rotate who will be first choice? But it's interesting, Arne Slot chose to name check with Maka and with Ryan in his normal position. I expect us to be better in these situations. Is that Arne Slot almost suggesting that this is his first choice pair of 8s? That doesn't mean there's nowhere, of course. I think Dominic Szoboszlai is going to play on Monday night, but it just is something that'll be interesting to follow. Quite open with that, Arne Slot. We'll see what develops. Other bits that he mentioned as well, it's not expecting a busy end to the transfer window. If we can improve in certain positions, sounds like Jurgen Klopp if you close your eyes, doesn't it? And the player is available, the club has shown they can bring players in. But it has to be the right fee, the right position, and the player wants to come with us. One man's definition of busy is another man's definition of quiet. I mean, if you someone to say busy, he's had 5 first-team stars come in and a couple of kids as well at the same time. That would be something you look at there. So by definition, the end to the window, probably we're expecting to be quieter, because if it was Isak and Gueye, maybe Arne Slot doesn't define that as busy. I think those are the 2 we want, at least. People will see it differently there. But, yeah, I wouldn't read too much into this. Arne Slot is never going to tell you, yeah, we've got loads planned. We know how this works. We'll only have to wait, 13 days to find out. He was praising of one Italian and a second Italian. We'll take the first one, Federico Chiesa. As he said there on screen, I see a totally different Federico now than I did for most of last season. And he actually talked about how Chiesa's had more of a pre-season, although he didn't take him on the Far East tour, but that's a different discussion. And how his fitness is better and his attitude and different bits. So it does really seem to back up those stories, doesn't it? That even late in the window. You never be as certain in case Liverpool can do certain deals. But the smart money now says that Federico Chiesa ends the window a Liverpool player. Still 13 days or so, isn't there? So we'll have to see. He did talk about a second Italian, though, the new signing, young Giovanni Leone. So let's hear what Arne Slot said about the youngster.
If you look at his transfer fee, you can expect that he's already quite grown up for his age, and that's exactly what I saw. So he comes in as an 18-year-old, just playing with his new teammates as if he's here for longer. Impressive if you look at how tall he is, fast, comfortable on the ball. So there's a reason why we paid the transfer fee as we did, because we see him as a bright prospect. Is that a good English? If you come to this club, if you come into this team, you feel at ease from the start because it's a very good and nice group.
Yeah, a bright prospect, as he put it. Now, I've seen a few people online suggest that, with the right back situation, that Leone might get minutes. It is possible, but I see it as highly unlikely. I can't see in that atmosphere Arne Slot will want to risk, shall we say, Giovanni Leone. That would be an almost a pull cord in case of emergencies. In fact, I would not be surprised if he's not even on the bench. It's more of a watching brief and just a few sessions to get up to speed. But it was nice to hear the manager talk about the player. There was other little tidbits as well, don't get me wrong, but those were the sort of most interesting call-outs ahead of Monday's game. Ahead of Monday's game, though, as we always do, we look back to Bournemouth and that game, the last one, any lessons to take from it. Chiesa and Salah won it late on after batches of two, wasn't it? 2-0, 2-2, 4-2. I mean, when we talk about lessons, I don't believe for one single second we will be as open at St James's Park as we were in this one. A home game against Bournemouth is very different to an away game at St James's Park, and especially with everything that's going on. And it's funny how I did the little thing that I don't think Isak will be playing for what I've read in the media. Yeah, like you don't know Arne Slot. But there was a few other bits, weren't there, that Gravenberch will come back into the team to help, as Arne Slot said it, reduce that openness. New boys were mixed. Ekitike, excellent. I thought Wirtz was very good. I think people started to round that after the original criticism from some quarters. Very good. Not brilliant, but very good. And got to get used to the physicality. I thought with Kirkes, a bit rash at times. Hopefully, they'll be talking to him. They'll be working on that with his game, and maybe almost tried too hard in that regard because of who it was, the occasion, etc. Frimpong, unfortunately, did well until he went off, but we know what that's led to at the same time. And you expect Mo Salah in the best possible way, don't you, to do what he does. I suppose the other key learn for me would be, and it's right to talk about it, and we're talking right back, from everything we saw, you absolutely cannot play Endo there. I know he mentioned Endo along with Szoboszlai as options who could play right back in this one. He will get murdered. Anthony Gordon will just, with that stupid airband thing, will just breeze past him time and time again. Even they probably swap a lang around at times as well. Like, you cannot play Endo right back in this one. It simply can't happen. And, for the 10-minute correction, Arne Slot would have deleted that from his record as well. But we've talked about Bournemouth. There's plenty of things to still be positive. Liverpool look a threat going forward. And there should be plenty of weaponry there. It's a good word for a Thursday, isn't it? Weaponry. What about Newcastle, though? Because we always talk about the opposition and the threats. And, I mean, the threats are, when I highlight him there, Joe Linton, that pretty much in some games he commits GBH and just gets away with it. There does seem to be literally zero penalty for Joe Linton. He must have, nudes on Howard Webb or something because of what he does. But Yeah. It's almost the collective of the midfield, isn't it? They will try that Joe Linton, Tonale and Guimaraes. They will be thinking back to the Carabao and thinking, can we bully Liverpool, make it a physical contest as possible? They don't almost, it sounds bad. They're not a bad team, Newcastle, but they don't really want a full game of football to break out. They want an intense physical battle. That's where they feel they can win it. There are still threats. I mean, Anthony Gordon hasn't scored for 67 years or something like that. Elanga's quick going forward. Harvey Barnes. I mean, Jacob Murphy seems to be out the team initially. That could change. He had a good end to the season. I think I'm not going to sort of tempt fate. Newcastle at home under the lights will be an extremely tough game. It would be easy just to do a lazy narrative of, well, look at Villa, where they didn't score a goal. That's going to be their problem. I would be pleasantly surprised and love it in Kevin Keegan style if we did keep a clean sheet. But based on what we've seen and the way we are, and also important to mention, new into the mix, Jacob Ramsey. That's a good signing for them at the same time. Villa did not want to let him go. It's just the PSR implications there as well. Also, set pieces like Burn, Shah, they're going to be dangerous as well. Unfortunately, as we saw with Dan Burnell, if you don't mark him at Wembley, funnily enough, and give him a free header, look what happens. So there are threats in this Newcastle team. Let's not get it twisted for one single second. But it comes down to us, doesn't it? What do we do? Who's going to play? Yeah. Alisson's going to be in nets, of course. Things might develop. We might get more in the embargo. But as it stands in the right back situation this second, based on the info we had or have, and based on what Arne Slot said there for clarity, I do think Joe Gomez will start. It would not surprise me if Gomez and Bradley were to get a half each potentially, or maybe, 60 minutes from Gomez, a bit of time, or, some variation. But I would expect from what we're hearing at the moment, Joe Gomez and Connor Bradley to split those minutes. Some of you are probably going to say, well, Leonie's there, but no, they're not going to risk him. That is honestly what I think will happen. At left back, and people will debate this as well, I do think he'll go with Milos Kerkez for his pace ultimately, especially against Elanga, running power that way. I know some have been saying Robbo for his experience, etc., and Kerkez was a bit rash. I think Elanga would murder Robbo time and time again down there. I do think it will be Kerkez. And also, it's a bit of a dint to his confidence if you're almost dropping him after his debut. And of course, in the middle, Virgil and Ibu. Now, the three midfielders, I think you might see a little bit of last season for me personally, as in he's almost intimated Ryan Gravenberch, Alexis McAllister, they're going to be the double pivot for this one. I think Dominic Szoboszlai will be the third midfielder. I think he will a little bit go back to what he was last season. And especially in the sort of a white hot St James's Park, think about just having as much legs, running power, if you want to call it that, in midfield as possible. I could be wrong on this. I just get the feeling, and I would do this personally, Florian Wirtz will be off the left. Because he's quality. You pay the money. It would be a big call to almost have him on the bench for this. I'm not saying it would greatly surprise me, but that is what I would do and what I think will happen. Wirtz from the left, leaving Ekitike in the middle and Mo Salah on the right side. Almost with an element of, if you have Wirtz, Szoboszlai, McAllister and Gravenberch in that midfield, the box war, whatever you want to call it, because Wirtz is going to come in, isn't he? Szoboszlai as well, it just allows him, and especially for this one, to press hard, work them hard there, because maybe just as an 8, that's something he's got to work out, understanding how it changes to defend the space rather than pressing the player all the time. So I could be wrong on this, but that is what I think the starting 11 will be. Alisson, Gomez, Kerkez, Van Dijk and Canate in the middle, the double pivot of Gravenberch and McAllister, Szoboszlai in the 10, Wirtz from the left, Ekitike up top, Mo Salah right. That is what I think it will be for this one. And then also at the same time, if you do need something to happen, you've still got Gakpo, Chiesa, Curtis Jones, Robbo. There is, and naturally Conor Bradley, I suspect, or one of Joe Gomez, Conor Bradley will be on the bench. So there is real options there at the same time. Endo, if you want to shut it down, well, midfield, not a right back, for the love of Christ. So that only leaves what's the score and the scorers. And for me, I want to be wrong on this so badly. I've actually got a 2-2 in my head, and I can't get around it. I think we are still a bit open. I know people are going to look at that and say, well, Newcastle didn't score in the first weekend, but bit different. I won't be surprised if we concede a soft one, shall we say, or one that's easily preventable. But I'm going 2-2. That is what my head is telling me. And Mo Salah to be on the score sheet, because he loves St James's Park, doesn't he? Got that goal, or a couple of goals, didn't he, last season to sort of turn it around before Kelleher lets it go and Shah slips in at the back post. That was annoying, 2 points dropped. This one, I do feel that in the Alexander Isak derby, Liverpool will think, okay, a point, everything that is, move on and get some business done, especially striker and centre-back before the window closes. That's why I'm going 2-2, Mo Salah to be on the score sheet. We'll see. This just seems so early, this press conference, but it is Thursday. There'll plenty be breaking. There will be an embargo, etc. as well. But on Thursday, the 21st of August, that was another post-conference presser for Anfield Index.